Hey, YouTubers. If the universe has sent you my way, hopefully I can give you some insights on what to do for your very first guitar. Should you go an acoustic or should you go an electric? What type of amplifier do I buy? How do I tune my guitar? How do I learn? And so forth. So back in August 1967, my parents named me Lonnie. My very first guitar at age 16 was this puppy here. It's a Fender acoustic guitar. I think it was made in Korea around the mid 1980s. And I will start by saying the things you do not want to do to an acoustic guitar is A, over tighten your strings. You'll see that this one is missing the E. That was a creative tuning process that didn't quite work. These tuning pegs are original to my guitar. They're very easy to replace. I just never got around to it. Problem is over time, when these are over tightened to get that heavy resonating sound that, a young kid or first time guitar player would want to get out of their guitar, can be extremely dangerous and hazardous to your neck. Because over time, it does stretch out your neck. Also, if you want to wear a strap, it's best advisable to go into there. Whereas some will argue the same thing as when you have a strap that attaches up here, it also puts tension and pressure on your neck. And probably, when you're strumming away, it could be arguable that may or may not happen. Strings have a loop end, and on an acoustic, you can pop out these pegs. I used to use a spoon, a fork, all the things you weren't supposed to use, but be careful that you don't leave grooves or indentations in your pickup by scouring and, jabbing up to pull up. I think there's stuff you can buy that actually are guitar peg removers. And I did repaint this black several times to prevent the gouging or the indentations. So when the pegs are up, they have a groove. There's a loop in on your string, slides in, then you push your peg down ever so gently. Do not reef them down. Just as you pull up on your string, put pressure on here, and then they'll just lock in place. And then you just, for your corresponding note strings, just run them to where they got to go. Now, do you want an acoustic or do you want an electric? If this is your very first debate, figure out how much money you got, figure out how hard you want to get into this, and leave some room that if you want to get out of it, you haven't lost your shirt. This 10 to 13 years ago was a $2,300 Canadian guitar. It's a Fender American Deluxe HSH, which I would not recommend going for Fender if this is your first electric guitar. Reasons being, they have an American Deluxe, they have a Japanese Strat, they have a Mexican Strat, they have various versions of Telecasters, Jazzmasters, and Squier guitars, which, but if you're new to it, get whatever you can, get whatever you're happy paying for, whether it's an acoustic, whether it's an electric. Bear in mind, though, the startup costs are higher because to get an electric, you need an amplifier. For an acoustic, right out of the box, away you go. You can get acoustic pickups that fit inside here, and you can kind of amplify your acoustic. I say kinda because I can, but kinda. So right off the bat, no talent, you're starting fresh, get an acoustic because you can play it pretty much anywhere you go. Definitely invest in a hard case. Do not buy those little baggy things because these do get banged around pretty good, in your bag, whatever, and you'll break them. Amplifiers. Honestly, I don't know how much about these things. This came when I bought my first guitar. I had an Ibanez RG 350 something or other. And there are various versions of Ibanez 350 something or others that DX that go all the way up, just kind of like your old 286 or 86 computers. This is a Fender 3 Mustang amplifier. It is digital, meaning it has presets. It kind of replaces what you would get, say, with guitar pedals. So that's why I went with this one off the hop. And I'm late to electric guitars. Problem with the Ibanez that I had was not indicative of this Fender, but it had a Floyd Rose bridge pickup. Sorry, Floyd Rose bridge. It did not have a bridge pickup. Floyd Rose bridge. Really hard to keep in tune. They're finicky. Not advisable if this is your first go around with an electric. The Ibanez also had lockable tuners up here that you would adjust with an Allen wrench. Varying degrees of keeping that in tune was a struggle. So, first lesson, E, A, D, G, B, E, going from left to right. Every alpha dog gets bacon every time. That's how I remember it. You can come up with your own. There's lots of different versions of that. You know, how to keep your E, A, D, G, B, E separate. And then your corresponding strings, of course, are all, these are acoustics. It's kind of a definition there that tells you what goes where. These are electric. And this is a whole other debate. Some people, you know, swear by guitar manufacturer strings. It's kind of like your underwear. You know, some people get just what fits. Some people get what really fits. Some people just get by on, yeah, they're old, I'm going to throw them out anyways. Don't shy on your strings, but don't get focused on whether you got to buy Martin, Fender, whether you got to get the Darios, which I don't think these are for an electric. There's a whole plethora of confusing string names. When you're starting out fresh, do not worry about whether or not you got a Fender. Do not worry about whether you got to get a Gibson or a Yamaha. Just get whatever suits you, get whatever fits you, and go for it. When it comes to tuning, I have an app on my phone. It's a Fender app that does very well. I also have a Snark tuner that does extremely well. This also has a tuner built into it. And providing you get your E string right, you don't need a tuner. Most guitars will have a dot on your third fret, and your E string, if you put pressure on the A and you play those two at the same time, should sound identical. And then you go forward, forward, doing the same thing, and then up here you skip a fret to get your B and the E to sound the same. So you don't necessarily need a tuner. However, you got to take a shot on guessing whether or not you have your E set up right off the hop. I'm pretty good at it. I can get this sounding reasonably decent without a tuner. And I get creative and I like to, you know, drop tune my guitar, which is another lesson. And I mess around with my tuning a little bit over and above what your standard guitar tuning is. Don't worry about that off the hop. So in the future, I will come up here in my guitar room dojo, which is your average spare bedroom in your typically 2,000 square foot house that nobody uses. And I'll pop some beers and I'll get going on some guitars for you. So stick around. I hope I was of some benefit. If you're a professional musician, somebody more articulate and talented than I, please trash me, crash me, bash me, smash me. I don't care. I'm here for my fun. Hopefully I can share some things and let's go forward.